I hope you all had a good rest. Welcome back to the Malaysian Architecture Education online lecture series, proudly presented by MASA. This lecture is entitled, The Future of Our Parks and Gardens. Will They Be Just Another Green Space? By Dr. Noor Atiah. Thank you for joining us today. For those who are new, MASA stands for Malaysia Architecture Students Alliance. It is a non-profit student committee acting directly under PAM, also known as Pertubuhan Arkitek Malaysia, and it consists of student representatives from all architecture institutions in Malaysia. During this time of RMCO, MASA and PAM have decided to launch this online lecture series for students to be more productive and gain more insights. Architect Adrianta is the head of PAM Education, and Dr. 𝐏𝐚𝐫𝐤𝐬 is the convener. There will be more series coming up after this one, so do keep in touch with MASA's Instagram and Facebook page. My name is Janelle Lansing, a MASA representative from UPM, and I will be your MC for today. Let us give a warm welcome to our speaker for today, Dr. Noor Atiah. Landscape architect.
Yeah.
So this is a short intro. Landscape architect Dr. Noor Atiah Ismail is an associate professor in the Department of Landscape Architecture in Universiti Putra Malaysia. She graduated with a bachelor's in landscape architecture from University Technology Malaysia in 1996, gained Master of Science in Architecture in 2002 from the same university, and obtained her PhD in landscape architecture from Lincoln University, Canterbury, New Zealand in 2010. She worked as a landscape architect consultant before joining UPM as an academician in 1999. She was the head of Landscape Architecture Department from 2011 to 2014. Her passion for cultural landscape is widely known, as she is actively involved in organizing cultural and heritage conferences and community activities around Asia-Pacific region, writing journals and presenting conference papers. She has published over 125 journal papers to date, and she is appointed as one of the panel experts in Malaysia Architecture and Landscape Architect Heritage by the Department of Heritage, Ministry of Tourism, Art and Culture of Malaysia. Passion leads her to be actively involved at the international level in conserving and preserving cultural heritage in the world's monument and site. At the national level, she is currently the Vice President of the Institute of Landscape Architects Malaysia, also known as ILAM, from 2018 to 2020. So before I pass to the speaker, please remember that we will have a Q&A session at the end of the talk. If you have any questions, feel free to type them down in the chat box so we can attend to them at the end of the sharing. That is all from me. Dr. Atiah, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Janelle. Thank you for such an interesting introduction on me. But for everyone here, I am Dr. Atiah, your teacher, your sister, and the one who's going to share with you the beauty of being together, working together in this built environment. So thank you so much, Janelle. And I think I wish to welcome everyone here in my lecture series, which is on landscape architecture. And congratulations to MASA for organizing this lecture series. Thank you so much to Architect Adrianta and also Dr. 𝐏𝐴𝐚𝐫𝐤𝐬 for inviting me for this session. So to my dear students, because I'm a lecturer, so I think everywhere, every time I speak, whether you are in UPM or any other universities, you are always my student. So, so today, I think I will share with you another different topic, especially during the weekend. So let's talk about something more green, more outdoor, and then much more interesting to talk about. It might be different from your everyday practices, maybe in school. Okay, so right, let me start my lecture today. So allow me to share the screen. Hold on, yeah. Okay, let me share the screen. Okay. Can you see my screen, Janelle? Is everything good?
Yes, we can see your screen very clear.
All right. So Good morning, everyone, and Assalamualaikum. So, the title today is actually the future of our parks and gardens. Will they be just another green space? So, this is again something that we have to talk together. We have to share the idea on the importance of parks and gardens in our everyday living, especially in urban area, because the urbanization is going to hike for in the next decade. So what need to be done? And today I'm sharing with you the future of parks and gardens when we do not have space to build our parks and gardens. So what can we do? So that's basically the summary of my lecture today. But nevertheless, let's go through the slides, okay, together. All right, okay. Now, hold on, yeah. Okay. Sorry. So everyone, my dear students, we all know that we are living in a climate emergency situation. So we see everywhere, not only in Malaysia, but everywhere in the around the globe, forest is burning, whether it is by human force or by the natural force, things are happening. And then we all have to remember that, especially in particular Malaysia, when we have these tropical forests, this is actually one of the sources of oxygen for everyone in this world, because we are basically very lucky to be Malaysia very lucky to be able to live in this we call it virgin tropical forest, so that whatever we have in our forest is not just contributing, I mean in terms of oxygens, in terms of water retention that we have in the forest, it is not just contributing for us in Malaysia, but we are actually obligated to the whole people in this world. So when our forest burned, not only in Malaysia and all around the world, what left that we have? So this is why being the people who are working in the built environment, we rebuild the environment for people to live happily, to live in a better living environment. So we need to replicate, we need to reproduce, and we need to allow all these greeneries to happen, because we have actually loosened them a lot. So this is a call for everybody: when we do any development, bring in these green spaces, because we are responsible for the rest of the people in this world. That means we cannot somehow or rather just by chance or just easily taken up our forest coverage. And then when we are in urban area, when we have lots of grey surfaces, we need to reproduce this green, so that at the end of the day, we're going to have a balanced living environment. Okay? Okay, so I'm sharing with you these slides. If you can see that this is our Earth in 1978. You might not have born yet, yeah, but I'm already 6 years old by this time. So you can see the difference of our environment, where you can see there are still lots of blue and green, yeah, coverage on the Earth. But when we are in this kind of living situation where our forest is burning and we are having climatic issues, yeah, we have these urban heat island issues, pollutions and whatnot. I'm sharing with you this picture on my right hand side, which is in 2066. Are we going to live in this kind of globe? I don't think we can survive by this time. So that's why certain measures need to be done before our globe is actually diminishing. That means there'll be no human being on the earth. So no matter what, whether you are being a landscape architect, you are being an architect, you are responsible for this situation, the changes. Where do we want to go? But no matter whatever the situation is, once you put yourself in this built environment professions, you are responsible to take care of this earth, and we are all need to do this together. Okay? And okay, this is in New York, yeah. So if you look at my previous slides, which is in 2066, yeah, this is what happening now in urban areas, yeah. So we can see that we do not have any more these forests like what I showed you just now. This is our urban forest. full of infrastructures, full of buildings, yeah. So it is like a tree that is actually growing in the forest, but now all the buildings are growing in the urban area. So this is what we call the urban grey forest. But the natural forest that we have is actually the natural forest. And this is the forest that we have been working on. It is, I'm not telling here that we are against development or we are against of building structures in the city. Of course, I am not on this line. But what I'm saying is that if it is done not with the balanced development plan between the green and the grey spaces, this is what you get. And in most of the countries in this world, especially in the developing countries, this is the situation we are having now. And the best recreation when you do not have green spaces is just like this, right? So this is your view, and you can just pretend that these are some of the trees in the forest, but yet you are in the city center. And looking at the pictures might look good, but you can, if let's say you are in this real situation, you can see you can listen to the honk of the trees, of the buses or the vehicles passing around, and then the pollutions and the heat. So this might not be the future that everybody wants to go for. So then certain measures need to be done, and this is what we're going to talk about today, right? So these are the issues more or less. I mean, how important is to have the green spaces in the urban development, and why biologically everybody needs to see green. Just to share with you, my dear students, remember last time during March and June, and in fact for my dear students, you are still at home, yeah, but for all lecturers, you're already going to universities doing practicing our job as usual. But you know, when you have this MCO, you are not allowed to go outside, not even to go for shopping or for school. You know how stressful is it to live, to contain yourself in the house. And then remember the first moment when you went out, you get out from the house to the outdoor areas, when you see the trees, yeah, when you see the people, when you see the parks, then there's we call it a biological spark that say that you need these outdoor spaces, and you long for these outdoor spaces. So I think COVID-19 is not a limitation, but it teaches us a lot actually, what we have done, what we have missed, and how can we go or move better after this situation, after this pandemic. Okay. All right, this is 111 in Chicago. This is what I mean with balanced development between green and grey infrastructure. That means you have all the buildings necessary for the development, for the economic income, and then you still keep the greenery so that in whatever floors you're working, you can just have a break and go near to the window, near to the glass wall, and look at these green spaces, yeah? And then you keep all this water still blue, and you still have this recreation that is actually giving the best view of the blue, green, and grey colors of this living environment. So we need to have this kind of development so that everybody will live better, psychologically, economically develop, and then biologically you are happy. So how can we work together to achieve this situation, right? So when you look at this picture, I think this is very ideal in the in the urban environment development. And in fact, in Kuala Lumpur, we are very lucky. Just imagine we have our twin tower KLCC, which is next to it is our gardens, which is just more about something like this, because this is actually what we call a balanced development between green and grey. Okay, infrastructure. So just a brief introduction, why do we need urban parks? Because in our daily life, yeah, even especially in this urban living, because there are basically, whether you realize or not, these urban parks are the indicators for quality of life. Okay, so if let's say you have missed going to the parks for so long, it's not yet too late for you to go and enjoy yourself, breathe this oxygen, the healthy breeze that you can get in the urban parks, especially in Kuala Lumpur. When you have Kuala Lumpur Botanical Garden, we have Putrajaya next to us. We have this upcoming beautiful Titi Wangsa Lake. Go and enjoy, then you will feel my lecture today. Why do I say this? What do I mean with urban parks as an indicators of quality of life? That means go outside after this afternoon, especially ride your bicycle or just walking around the park. I remember this morning lecture. Why am I saying that urban parks is basically the indicators of quality of life? The first one, because they are the real sustainable islands, right? So green areas helps to mitigate the harmful effect of pollution, and there are heavens for numerous animals and plant species. This is again, we have to remember that we are not living on this earth alone. We are sharing this earth, this platform with the flora and fauna. And that's why urban parks is the real sustainable islands, not only for us, but for all this fauna. They need space to live. They actually helps to create a balanced ecosystem for us. That's why if let's say now we are having with lots of, I'm giving you example in the residential area, we have lots of mosquitoes. Yeah, sometimes Malaysia is also very, very critical when it comes to dengue fever besides this COVID-19. Do you know why? Because today, if you realize, if you notice around your house compound, we have less and less frogs. You all know that the food for frogs is actually mosquitoes. They rely on mosquitoes as part of their survivor. But now you do not have frogs. That's why the mosquitoes is heavenly going around and then eating you, sucking your blood, because you allow them to live. And then why the frogs is not around your house? Because you do not allow them to live in these green spaces. Everybody started to tarmac their compound. You do not have any gardens. Some of them really, really do not have gardens. And that's why this cycle, the negative cycle of the ecological imbalance is keep on happening. So don't blame the mosquitoes. Let's now blame ourselves. Why do we not want to have a garden in front of our house? And why are we so scared of frogs? Because they're actually helping us, yeah? So that's just a joke while I'm giving you the lecture. Don't worry about that. Okay, and then why parks? Urban parks are very important because they are good for mental health. Especially in pandemic situation like this today. If you are good, Alhamdulillah, I'm so happy to see you very, very healthy, very, very good. But on the other sides of our community, there are people who are actually mentally stressed. They might have lost their jobs. Yeah, their pay is only 50% out of their ordinary payments, and I think by next month, after the banking moratorium is going to end, there'll be a lot more people who going to be living with this mental stress situation. So that's why urban parks is one of the cocoon oases in the middle of the urban area where they can go for. It's free for public. They can sit down. They can just look at the green, the birds, because it means a lot to this kind of people. Right? So when these urban parks is actually helps to relax, think, and to give us a break from the asphalt and in our daily routines. So that's why urban parks is very, very important. And apart from that, for our bodies, because there are ideal places for sports and physical activities. You can see that after the pandemic, there's a trend where everybody starts to cycle. And that is actually the forces from this MCO. When they really they're stuck in the house, they don't feel healthy. So after the MCO is actually a condition MCO, so that's why they start to cycle And you can see that the urban parks nowadays is actually being visited much more than what they have been taken care of before. That means people really need to go and do their sports and physical activities, and it is much more safer for them to do this in this urban park rather than just walking next to the very busy road or cycling next to a very busy road. So parks and gardens gave much more safer and healthy conditions for us to do our sports and physical activities. And not to forget, this is a place where we do a social cohesion, especially in Malaysia when we have 3 races, Malay, Chinese and Indian. So urban parks is actually one of the best place for you to sit down together. You can talk to your neighbors, get to know what's happening in the neighborhood. So while watching your children's playing in the, you're still young, like myself, watching my children's playing in the playground or whatsoever. So they're a meeting place for neighbors and tourists for all ages, hobbies and etc. And especially nowadays, placemaking in urban parks is actually being exercised a lot by the local authorities. Sometimes you have this we call it activities like Zumba in the parks and Tai Chi, and sometimes they even have this health screening near to the park. So that kind of thing is actually an activities or placemaking that enhance or elevate the importance of urban parks for these urban people. And there are settings. Urban parks are settings, yeah. They are venues for concert, exhibitions, leisure activities of all kinds. So if you see urban parks, it may be just open, and sometimes we thought that it is not making money. But why don't you as a citizens, as a community, make use of these urban parks? Create your own community concert for children's outdoor. The thing is that we have to allow ourselves to do it outdoor rather than everything needs to be done in the air-conditioned room in the hotels or whatsoever. And try to maximize the function of our urban parks. And our urban parks are museums too, right? So for example, the Metropolitan Park, so whether it is old or new, so there are museums, there are history, there are actually a historical book that you can walk. So walking in a park is like walking in the history book, because you see all these artifacts, you see all the history that is happening, especially for parks that is related to certain era and certain things. For example, Central Park, whatsoever. They have their own history, and walking in the history book is actually one of the best way to learn. Yeah? All right. And then apart from that, why do we need our urban parks? Of course, because there are basically a small sponge infrastructure in the city. Today, everybody is talking about the concept of, or the theory of, sponge city. Some people truly believe that this need to be done. Some people, especially the policymaker, the practitioners, think that no, this is not going to be the way to go for. But it's okay, whatever it is, we always have solutions to rectify the environment, unhealthy environment that we are having today. And we are basically borrowing this environment from our future generations. We need to give them back the water. We need to give them a natural environment. We are obligated, responsible to give them a better living environment, especially for your younger sister, younger brother. So we need to do something. So one of the solutions for these urban parks that we need to have in urban area is because they works as a small sponge infrastructure in the city, right? How do they work, right? So if you look at this one, this is the big infrastructure, the big sponge infrastructure, okay? When you have these urban parks, okay, so when you have these urban parks, you can see that it is part of these waterlogging prevention projects. That means that will help actually to help the flood, especially the flash flood or whatsoever, because they helps to prevent the waterlogging. And then water pollution control project. That means you can help to rectify, you can help to clear the water in our river whatsoever, improve the water quality in our river, especially in River of Life project as an example. So River of Life project, that means the river that we see around Masjid J.A.M.E, along this Masjid J.A.M.E area, they are not actually birthed from there. Their birth is actually from the forest, way beyond this water, this river. That means Sungai Klang and Sungai Gombak. So they are actually connected with Sungai Ampang and so many more sungai that is actually within the vicinity of Klang Valley and also Selangor. Then only you got this Sungai Klang and Sungai Gombak. So along the way, we need this water pollution control project. So whatever water that comes into our city is actually a clear water, a water that is very healthy, you can even touch, but not yet to drink the water. But one day, maybe, why not? We can even drink our water. Imagine one day you can drink water in Sungai Klang and Sungai Gombak, but it doesn't taste like teh tarik anymore, okay? It tastes like your freezer, your clear water that you drink every day. So this might be an imagination. Well, we need an ambition to proceed in the future. It is possible, right? And also for river restoration project, now we need this sponge to make sure that our river is clear, is healthy, and it's going to be there forever. And for small sponge infrastructure, it helps for the sponge communities. That means the communities and then sponge roads, we have all the infrastructure and also this green infrastructure. So all this space is actually collecting water, when especially in Malaysia when we have heavy rains. We are very lucky. We receive lots of rains, but then we do remember, I think somewhere last week when Kuala Lumpur was flooded after the flood in Kuala Lumpur, yeah. So you can see Masjid J.A.M.E was floating. I believe my students here are all aware with that situation. You know why? Because we have less of these spaces that can actually absorb this rainwater. Everything's being tarmac, being paved, so that's why the water flow is actually running really fast and everything is going to the drain and drain going to the river, and that's why at the end of the day we receive this flood, because we do not have a good sponge to collect this rainwater, right? And how does it work? All right, so when we have this we call it sponge, so it will solve the urban water problems and it will actually serve the goals. For example, we can actually helps to mitigate the water shortage issues, water logging, water pollution, ecological degradation, and also city syndrome. That means all those psychological issues, mental health and whatnot. And then the goals is actually to utilize rainwater as a resource, to mitigate urban water logging and flooding, the one that we discussed just now, improve urban water quality, restore the ecological function of urban water, and improve the urban microclimate. So that's why having parks and gardens in the urban area is so much crucial. Some people thought that it is an option, whether you have it or you can not to have it in urban area. But today in my lecture, to my future architects, to my future professionals who's going to continue our legacy to build this, to rebuild, to make our living environment better, now you know that why do you need these urban parks. It is not just for beautification, for you to walk and to run around. It has more function that how you can see it visually, right? Now this is what happened. Yeah, after I'm telling you why is it important, but still this is what happening. Yeah, the buildings, the great infrastructure is now eating up our green spaces. They thought that green spaces wouldn't make money. How can you sell your trees? But you can always sell units in your condominiums and apartments. And this is what's happening. And basically, this is our responsibilities to make sure that are we, after today, allowing all our green spaces to be eaten up by this dinosaur, the grey dinosaur here, right? Are we going to allow that to happen? Now, I think after this lecture, everybody will have at least a kind of awareness of why do we need urban park. But I don't say that all these giants are not important. So what I mean is that a balanced development, balanced living environment, balance between grey and green. How do you bring green into your grey infrastructure? How do you bring grey into the green infrastructure? This is our responsibilities. This is what we have to do now and also for the future. Okay. Okay, and then I'm sorry. There's one issue that I'm going to share with you, my dear students. We know that land is basically open land for development is so precious for us. Name it in Kuala Lumpur, we do not have ample land to develop anymore because buildings, skyscrapers, roads and other facilities has actually mushrooming. So we do not have any grounds anymore. But today, Dr. Atiah is saying that we need urban parks. We need urban parks. How do we do? What do we do? And that's what I'm going to share with you is that it's okay. We have to live within our limitation. And being the future generations of Malaysia, we need to take the challenge. And that's why I'm so happy to be with you in this lecture today, because you're all from architecture background and I'm from landscape architecture background. But I'm telling you one thing. The success of a city is not by one profession. The success of a city is when you can work together with all the professionals involved. Architects can work better with the landscape architects, better with the planners, engineers, and whoever. So everybody has to improve the way of communication, delivering our works, so that we can get a better development in Malaysia. All right. So now let's get back to the issue when we do not have land anymore. How can we get these open spaces? And I need you, my dear students, to, because this thing, landscape architects cannot do alone. Still, we need to get the architects, the engineers, the planners to come and together with us, be together with us to make sure that in whatever situation, we all know that we need green space, but now we do not have space, so what do we do, right? So I'm giving you one example. The futuristic city design takes park views to a new level. Even in New York, one time, a few decades before, they have been very greedy to build all the buildings or whatsoever, right? But nowadays, they know that one thing is lacking in New York, which is the Central Park. So that actually gives them a motivation to create these natural urban parks in the middle of New York City. So this is what we call the futuristic city design. It's a New York Central Park. Yeah. So New York Central Park has been radically transformed, and 1,000 more people will be able to see it from their windows. Yeah, you can see all these buildings and they have these parks, and more of these people can actually see the greens rather than just the gray. Yeah, so two designers from the United States have conceived a plan that would create 7 square miles of square miles of housing that wraps around a sunken Central Park. Yeah, so this is basically 1,000. This is basically 1,000 feet tall, 100 feet deep size skyscraper they envision would be built into a sunken Central Park. So imagine that in New York, they built a sunken Central Park with the soil dug out to reveal the underlying natural bedrock. So according to the designer's plan, the soil remove and then they reuse back, and all this bedrock is actually used as part of the landscape materials, and so that they can make more gardens and they can reutilize all these natural elements. So, and on the other hand is that the design calls for a glass facade to cover the building, Alright, so the building is actually being covered by the glass facade. So with its highly reflective glass cover on all sides, so the landscape inside the new park can reach beyond physical boundaries. You know, when we have all these glass wall, so that will actually double and triple up the views. That means you can see the park is bigger because of the reflection on the glass wall. And the landscape inside the park can reach beyond physical boundaries, creating an illusion of infinity. So in the heart of the New York City, the new horizon is born, and that is the New York Central Park, right? And the best thing is that it is a sunken Central Park. Now I'm going to show you, this is the New York Central Park, right? It's a sunken city, okay? And this is what you see basically. All right, so that means you can do this. We can rectify our living of our environment, our urban area, and it is not only in Malaysia, right? So we can actually see that even in Korea, they have rectified the 𝐏𝐚𝐫𝐞 River. That means they have covered the river and then put it a highway. And then after some time, they thought that was not the best solutions. They actually clear the highway and then rebranding the river, and it's becoming one of the most successful urban river in the city. And so does River of Life project in Kuala Lumpur. We have to remember that River of Life, Sungai Gombang, Sungai Klang was really dirty, smelly one time. And it's one of the places where you can dump the dead people into the river. But today, it has been given a new breath, a new soul with colors, lights, and people are coming to the river. So that's a good sign. So actually, place making or making up the landscape of the city effort has actually started around the globe, and we are not exceptional, but we need more efforts. That's more efforts, more green, so that we can see, we can balance up between the grey and the green infrastructure. Okay, now I'm going to share with you another future cities that when you do not have land, this is what's going to happen. The landscape has got to go above and above. So we have sky gardens, we have vertical landscape, we have rooftop. So that's going to be our way of working. So my dear architects, whenever you draw, whenever you design a building, make sure that you have sky garden, make sure you have rooftop, make sure you have vertical landscape, because we need to replicate the forest in the urban area, but in a creative and also functional, manageable manners. All right. Sometimes concept is good, but the application need to be reviewed so that whatever it takes, at the end of the day, it is a positive things for the development rather than something that is negative and giving a harmful position for everybody who lives in the city. So you can see the greenery. Oh, sorry. The greeneries has taken up the place. And this is another example, especially when we talk about food scarcity in the city. Remember last time during COVID, everybody rushed to the supermarket because they were so afraid they are not going to have food supply during the 3 months or 1 month of the MCO. They do not have even pandan leaves in their house compound. But today, after this MCO, if you go around the city, everybody must have at least a pandan leaves, and then they must have the meat leaves or aloe vera in the house compound for the food security. And they know that how much they are depending on these plants to grow much better than rather than they going to the supermarket, going to the grocery stores just to find these elements of cooking, right? So this can be your futuristic landscape, but you can use them as the food urban gardening or urban farming. You can actually you can plant your vegetables or whatsoever in this kind of beautiful but then creative kind of solutions for urban farming. So we have to go beyond urban farming on the ground. So now let's talk about vertical urban farming. So this is going to be the solutions. It is not only for environment, but at the same time, it can help to mitigate the food scarcity or food mitigation in the urban area. And of course, you're going to get much more healthier vegetables because it comes right in front of your house compound, right? Oops, I'm taking lots of times already. Okay, and this is again another view that can actually helps to balance between the grey forest and also the green forest, right? Okay, this is one of the example in the China First Forest City. So China has developed this forest city, and the idea is actually to this is what we call a biomimicry concept. That means they want to reproduce the forest, and they use the building as a pillar. That means for each of these sky terrace, they plant the forest species. But then, of course, when it comes to the implementation and also with perception by the residents whatsoever, this is a new thing that is a challenge in these new decades that we have to go for. Not everybody can accept the new concept easily, but then being the person who are responsible in this development, we need to give the best and also to educate the neighborhoods, the society, that why do we need this concept, how this concept evolved. Yeah, so if you can see here, most of the ground is actually being used for this recreational, and most of the transportation has been gone up here, right? And in fact, the roads whatsoever is actually elevated, and most of the green space or the ground is actually being left for the recreational and also for the natural forces, rivers and whatnot. Yeah, so are we ready to live in this urban forest? My dear, this is not just an ordinary landscape. This is forest. Like when you go out and do camping in the forest, but now we bring the forest to your doorstep. Are you ready for this kind of development? Are we preparing our future generation towards this? I'm not sure, but this is coming up because of this pollution and all these environmental issues. Okay, this is what I said, the biomimicry. That means we are basically imitate or mimic the natural forest into our development, so that you don't really see that it is a building, it is very much blending into the nature, right? So you see all those sky terrace, you see this rooftop garden, and you feel like you are in the forest by yourself. So this is a new concept. That means when we do not have much ground to give, to allocate for our future generations, this might be one of the solutions. But at the end of the day, it also helps to mitigate our environmental issues and also giving more green coverage in urban development, right? Okay, so this is the micro view of this urban forest, right? So now in front of your doorstep, in front of your windows, you are having your forest. So today, when you want to get the forest feeling or forest environment, you go and get all your camping tools and then go to the forest. You can go to anywhere in Kuala Lumpur, maybe in certain forest nearby, and you build up your tent or whatsoever. But tomorrow, you don't have to do that because every day you are going to live in the forest. But again, it comes together with the flora and fauna. So you might get birds coming in, you might get squirrels in front of your house, you might get bees coming to say hello to you every morning. Well, that's part of nature, and you need to maintain that landscape because you know that you have these responsibilities to return back the greeneries within the development that is required for the growth of our nation. All right, so now we thought that this is already green, but for all you know that yes, this is green visually. We see all the green facades and whatnot, but environmentally, it doesn't help much to absorb carbon dioxide. It doesn't help much to provide oxygen. So yes, we need this green wall, but still we need more of the rooftop and more of the sky terraces so that it will balance up our environment. Okay, so that means here what I'm saying to see is that green wall is not enough, right? And this is again, when you have a proper landscape, proper forest in the city, you can always have a recreation. And in this picture, it shows that even to have this kind of walkway, you can even use all the light materials that are available today. Less column, but to allow all the trees and whatnot to be the pillar of this environment. Let's bring this natural pillar in our living environment, and we live in between them. So let them be the master on the earth rather than we human being to dictate what we want to do on the earth. So it's basically a 360 kind of theoretical change between the practice that we have for decades before, right? Okay, so when I talk about that, those part of the solutions, and I'm trying to share with you is that since we might not have a ground for parks or whatsoever, so there will still be a park life for us. Are we going to still going to the parks like myself, I used to do today like this, right? We can go to the parks and lay our mats, sit down, get together, and then listen to the music or reading listen to the music or reading your exciting books. Yeah, so are we going to still have this kind of living environment in the future? Yeah, so we don't know, but if let's say we do not have, don't worry, don't be sad, because I'm going to share with you some of the solutions we can do, right? This one. So parks will get built underground, right? So this is in low-lying New York City. When you can see that in New York, a crowded cities, they run out of space, the answer lies beneath our feet. So after a successful Kickstarter campaign, the low-lying creators are working with the MTA and the city to convert an abandoned underground trolley station into a state-of-the-art solar panel illuminated amounting 55 million worth of park. So now if we do not have space on the ground, we can definitely go vertical. If vertical is again something that it's quite a limitation for us, make use of the space that we can have now. Reutilize the space, and this is one of the example. And the other one is actually in Poptown, London, right? So similar to the low line, Poptown would repurpose the abandoned network of tunnels under London to create a park and mushroom farm. So that's very exciting. That's why I said there's no reason not to have greens. There's no reason not to have parks. We can reutilize, repurpose the spaces as long as we have this intention. Let's go green, right? And this one is again in Ghost Metro Station in Paris. So they use some of their abandoned metro stations that nowadays is actually being utilized by homeless shelters and movie sets, as horror movie whatsoever. But the new new Paris mayor candidate has proposed a bold reuse for some subterranean spaces. So Netherlands 𝐏𝐚𝐫𝐤𝐬 has an idea to leverage some of the city's ghost stations to create Paris next tourist attractions, from pools to art galleries to nightclubs. So again, this is one of the space that we can always use for the community, right? From ghosts to people, right? So that means reutilize, repurpose the space. And in the future, parks will be more synchronized with nature. All right. In this reclaimed land, if you can see here, all right, this is a reclaimed land in Chicago, Northerly Island in Chicago, right? So Northerly Island sits right off the coast of Chicago's downtown Loop area. So over the next 20 to 30 years, Northerly is being rebuilt to accommodate big crowds while minimizing ecological impact. The island's power will come from wave and geothermal power, and the space will feature wetlands and reef, providing a new sanctuary for birds and fish. So this is what I said. Our green space in the future is not just a green space. It is functioning so many various of ecological and also environmental issues that we can solve in the near future. That means see the landscape as a biodiversity, as a wealth, and as a wealth in the city. It is not just a space that you give to people. Actually, you are giving it to yourself too, right? And this is in Singapore, right? Gardens by the Bay, even Singapore with a very limited space that they have. They develop the marquees, yeah, the green marquees in Singapore, so that this marquees can actually helps to collect water. So waterside parks features a range of groves, forests, conservatories, event space. The park helped transform Singapore from the the last 20 years we have been talking just a garden, but to make your city in the garden, in the forest. So this is what the future is going. We are not going to have water as much as we have today. And it's a signal already, especially in Selangor, we have water shortage once in a while. Every year it's coming back, coming again and again. So water shortage is one of the environmental issues. Today, in most of our condominiums, our apartments, we have swimming pool. And you know how much water is actually being dumped into that swimming pool just to make sure that you can swim like a duck. Everybody wants to be like a duck, right? So tomorrow, we might not have that much water, but still the desire of being the duck or being into the water, I'm so sorry, being into the water is actually a desire that we can actually tell us no, because we really want to do it. So this is one of the ways plus pool in New York City. So this is a floating pool in the East River, aspires to be a giant strainer drop in the river. So it is like a giant strainer drop in the natural river. Its walls would filter out bacteria and allow the river water to flow through the pool. That means you don't need extra community pool. Just flop this giant strainer in the river. And now imagine that we flop this giant strainer in Sungai Klang. Everybody can go and play in the river. I'm sorry, that is public area. But well, this is, we talk about common water play to the community, right? So we do not need extra water because in the river, the water flows naturally and we make use of them, right? Okay, hold on, my dear. Let me sip a bit of water here. Okay, next. Excuse me, I'm so happy, excited now. So again, another solutions of bringing parks to people is actually to reuse the abandoned spaces and reimagine their function. This is in Berlin, Tempelhof Airport in Berlin. So this airport played a key role in World War II and I'm so sorry. And during the pivotal Berlin airlift of the Cold War, right? So after the Germany decided to consolidate its air transit to one main airport in 2008, then this Tempelhof was converted into a public park nearly as big as a Central Park. So, my dear, we can always repurpose the spaces and making it much more interesting for the environment and also for the people, right? And this is a very, very popular effort by in San Francisco, the HighLink. Everybody knows about this project. So HighLink is a proposed walkway that repurposes an abandoned stretch of Interstate 280 in San Francisco as a park with panoramic views of the city. And this is what we call an elevated park. Yeah, so we may have to do this after in the future. That means to connect from one building to another by walking. That means that you do not have to go on the streets or whatsoever. We may need to have this HighLink that connects from one building to another. So that will be another layer of ground for the people. Okay. And this is in Culture Park, Berlin also. So their Culture Park was a Cold War era theme park on the outskirts of Berlin. Is a haunted ghost area. So it was abandoned, and the forest has grown among the decaying rides. Now a group of German artists are attempting to refurbish the space for creative projects and public use. So this is another repurpose of green space and making it to be used by the publics, right? And in the future, the lines between public parks and private space will blur. That means we are going to live within the public parks. We are going to live within the parks. So this is one example for Seoul Commune 2026 in Seoul. Yeah. So proposed project in South Korea hopes to merge private residence with a grand public park. That means your garden is actually a public park. By constructing gardens all over the top sides and bottoms of the towers, Seoul Commune would blend ecology with efficiency. That means you have more green space and it is much more utilized, right? So that means you can go to the park easily as it is connected around the place that you are living. And reutilizing Cascade in Hong Kong shows that you might not need a lot of space to create a cool park in 2034. So consider how the Age Design Institute repurposed what would have been a mundane stairway, this huge stairway, to make a vibrant public feature with benches, plants, and lights. So this is very much of place-making kind of activities that we can always encourage ourselves to do more and more for the publics and to create a better and healthy community. And parks will become more viable. This is the last resort, right? But it's happening now in Azerbaijan. Parks on wheels, yes. It's a real thing in Azerbaijan where you can actually rent this wheel park, and then just because you just want to feel like you are sitting on the ground in the park like we used to have it before. So the lawn can accommodate 2 riders, provide much more needed green space in congested concrete jungles. Yeah. So yeah, up to this extent, green space is important, and we can maximize, we can reutilize, we can repurpose, and we can be creative how to create these green urban spaces within our urban development. All right, so even companies will get in on the park bonanza. They have this globe, that means they have these parks inside this biodome, and this is Amazon Biodome in Seattle. Check out their renderings for new headquarters downtown Seattle. So it's a biodomes with incorporate cycle track, dog park, retails. That means you are doing your shopping in the park, right? So you can bring your dogs, you can bring your bicycles into the park, you can go for coffee, you can go for shopping or whatsoever, but everything done in the park kind of setting. This is what we call an environmental, or we call it a biodome, biodome. Okay, even the Facebook West Campus, now Facebook is also developing the Eco Campus movement. The tech giant contracted renowned architect Frank Gehry to design expansion of its Menlo Park headquarters. They'll surely light the park on the roof. That means they have these buildings, but you don't really see these buildings. You see the parks, but actually you have buildings in between. And for this, I think this horizontal architecture and bringing more parks is actually not a new thing. Yeah, it has been done before by your great architects, but the idea or the reformation of this kind of new architecture is coming back. Okay, now, my dear moderator, Janelle, do we still have time? A few minutes. Can you give me just a few minutes?
Yeah, a few minutes, yes.
And then we end the session. My dear, please. So, Janelle and everyone, so where do we stand our heart? This is our land, this is our country. We are responsible to make good of it. We do not want to have flood that happens in Bangkok to happen in Kuala Lumpur. We still have time. but things need to be done. Put your heart in every effort that you are doing. So that will end my lecture today, Janelle. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for listening. Now we're going for Q&A whatsoever. I leave it to Miss Pretty Moderator. Yeah, over to you.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for the wonderful talk. I hope everyone enjoyed it and feels inspired to design cities in a garden. So, Dr. Atiah, we have some questions for you from the audience. The first one from Hazrina Hussein.
Okay.
Hi, Dr. Atiah. Thank you so much for your inspiring lecture. I'm Rina from University of Malaya. I have a question. With the global pandemic is still going on, are the landscape architects or design professionals going to design urban parks differently? Are they doing to design differently, but the relationship between outdoor spaces and health is still prevalent?
Thank you so much, Dr. Rina. This is Associate Professor Dr. Hazrina from UM, my close friend. So thank you so much for supporting me, Dr. Rina. Okay, and this is a very important question, especially now when we're talking about pandemic. So briefly about this question, Dr. Rina, I think urban parks is one of the solutions for the pandemic because you can allow people to sparsely use the parks cause for the needs of this pandemic, especially when it comes to health issues, whether you are safe to be in the building or outside the building. I would say that in this pandemic, it is very much to be in the parks because we all know that COVID viruses really afraid of sun or heat. Yeah, so yes, urban parks is one of the solution for COVID-19. That means it is safer for you to be there. But of course, different measures and different ways of designing need to be adapted in this new pandemic situation and going for a new normal in the future. And I think all the landscape architects are aware about this, and we are in the move of giving the best to our community, inshallah. Thank you, Dr. Rina.
Another question is asked by Rafi.
Yeah, Rafiq.
So, I think this is referred to the slides about New York, the sunken.
Yes. Okay.
Wouldn't it be better to have vertical greenery rather than reflective glass because of reflection?
Yes, I think it has a different function because the function is actually to have for the New York Central Park, the function is that to create this infinity kind of reflection of the park because they do not have huge parks, so they only have that we have the area, but they want it to look bigger, so that's why they have this reflective glass. But bear in mind, their heat is not like in Malaysia because they are temperate countries, so there are not so much like us. We have all year round heat whatsoever. But then of course vertical greenery is also one of the best solutions in order to have for the sunken garden. So both are applicable, but depends on the solutions functions of the park that is required. But I think it's a very good suggestion by Rafiq. Thank you so much. Okay.
Another one from EP. Hi, Doctor. Thank you for taking the time to share with us your expertise. What are some of the existing and potential challenges faced by practicing architects, landscape architects, and planners in implementing progressive policies with regards to the local KL government? Why is KL a potential emerging global city slow to implement progress similar to those in other cities within the region?
Okay. Actually, we have lots of challenges, and I truly believe that I truly agree with you that this is one of the most challenging aspect when it comes to urban development, because I remembered in my discourse in a few important people, policymaker, last time our struggle was like this. It has to be real. Our struggle was that, especially in Kuala Lumpur, which one is much more important? to build a house for the needy, that means for the citizens, or to create a parks. Which one is much more important? House is very important, but we all know that parks is also important. But then a house is much more needed, and parks is actually secondary because we can wait. So I think those kind of situation has happened before. But now I believe the spirit has changed a little bit, if not a lot, but I trust DBKL in this case, because you are talking about Kuala Lumpur. I trust DBKL, they have the mission already. And telling you is that KL is going to change. So we hope to have a better KL, which is safer, vibrant, and safe for everyone. Especially, they are planning right now, drafting, and also in about to enacted this Kuala Lumpur Structure Plan 2020 and 2040. And in this structure plan, which I'm personally involved as one of the involved by in DBKL, among others experts in DBKL, I would see that KL after this is going to change, and they have this awareness more than what we had before. So it's okay, because I think we all need a desire to change, and the environmental, the COVID-19, the situation, the pollution situation right now, environmental degradation is actually a pushing factor to make KL in particular is a better and safer place for everybody to live in. So just wait. But of course, we all need these young architects to come and help us, because we need your brain, we need your creativity, we need your power. Your energy is something I am so amused and I'm so envy of. I used to have your energy, but not anymore now. But lend your energy to us. We work together. That's going to be one of the best way to go for with all these challenges. Okay? Right? But remember, KL is not going to be Singapore. KL is not going to be Seoul, because Kuala Lumpur is our Kuala Lumpur with our own identity. Right?
Thank you for that.
Okay.
We have another question. Hello, Dr. Atiah. It was a really amazing sharing on this topic. I am Vinci from UCSI University.
Thank you,
May
Vinci.
I know if there is any case study of sunken park or an abandoned?
Okay, I can check with you on that. There are a lot actually. You can Google. You can go with our uncle Google. You can check on the sunken park. But if maybe this is one of another interesting topic, Janelle, we can have another topic just to talk about the potential of the sunken park, or repurpose and reuse of these negative spaces into a functional space. Because it's very exciting. I would have agreed with you. It's very exciting. Yes.
Okay, we can propose another talk if you'd like.
Yes.
Okay, so next question again from EP. Apologies in advance if this is too general of a question. Thank you for the response. Would you agree that Malaysians and by and large have less appreciation for active green space and its uses? Is the issue a result of cultural, sociological, or practical, as in lack of access to parks circumstances, or a combination of them? How can current and future professionals address these shortcomings within the local Malaysian context?
Yeah, so much. So I can say that you have the awareness on this. Yeah, so I cannot say that this is totally wrong. I couldn't say that this is totally right, because some people do have this appreciation, but it might not adequate at this moment. Yeah, we might a bit laid back when it comes to awareness of green spaces or whatnot, because I think we have been so complacent because we are born in the tropical forest of Malaysia. So we thought that yes, our environment, for our urban development, we can do anything. We still have forests. We still have forests in Sarawak. We still have forests in Pahang. We still have some forests in Selangor. So why bother? So in urban area, we can do anything. But today, we all know that even this forest is getting lesser and lesser. And we have inadequate of forests, and that's why it is our responsibilities as the built environment professionals to replicate this forest in the urban area, but in a proper manner and in a creative ways. But then when you ask about how can current and future professionals, this is what I'm doing today, that I'm sharing this importance, this awareness with my future architects. I'm going to do that with the planners and others, so that, because this is not the work only of a landscape architects. We can't do this. As a landscape architects in Malaysia, I think we have a total of nearly 2,000 registered landscape architects, and some are not registered, but more or less I would say about not more than 5,000. How could we solve all these issues alone? But now that's why today's lecture, this is very exciting for me to share with all of you, that come together. As long as we have this awareness in any of our projects, we have the awareness. Remember what Coach Akon said is that when you do things by heart, and you know that you have these environmental, social, and economic responsibilities, put them together and we solve these issues together. Together we are stronger. We do it together. Okay? Right? Yes.
Agree. And finally, we have one last question from Renz Irvin Delator. Hello. May I ask, what is your take on phytoremedial plants?
Okay. Plants in the right place for the right time. Remember, because even nowadays, if we talk about tropical climates, because when we talk about landscape, it is very, very crucial that even if, let's say, Bangkok, I'm giving an example in Bangkok, some of the plants that might be flourish in Bangkok, they are not flourishing in Kuala Lumpur. So it is not just like a hard materials. For example, steel, you can use the steel materials everywhere in the world. But for landscape, plants is very, very difficult. Even within the tropical plants itself, there are plants that are suitable for Malaysia, plants that are suitable for Sri Lanka, for Bangkok, even for Singapore. We have similarities, but then there are certain tropical plants that are very prone for our own, we call it local climate. So that's why talking about plants is another exciting aspect that I can, it can take me days to talk to you, because to me plants is very special. They are like human being. You got to know plants, like you know me, like you know Janelle, you know 𝐒𝐚𝐫𝐤𝐬, whoever, Dr. Rina here, because they are very, very special and they need special requirements. So that's why even when we talk about planting the skyrise, planting the rooftop garden, there are certain plants that can accommodate certain heights. Some plants are very shy. They do not want to go upwards. They just happily to be on the ground. So you cannot push them to grow on the rooftop. So that kind of understanding on the phytoremedial plants, it's very, very exciting to talk to. But then one of the solutions, or one of the best criteria for trees, especially that you can adopt in this tropical climate, is look at what you have in your forest. That is the major reference of what are the suitable plants that can be adopted in your urban area. But of course, in different maintenance regime, but we already have the we call it references of what are the suitable plants that can be planted in Malaysia. But then most of us sometimes even would like to have plants imported from other countries because they want KL to look like New York. No, just just appreciate what we have and adore the plants with us, all right? And then do not use synthetic plants, of course, especially when it comes to green wall, because sometimes we take it as a shortcut. As long as it's green, we can use the synthetic plants or plastic plants or whatever. It still look green because you see it from far away, but that's not the solution, because landscape is not just for visual. We have other responsibilities to go for. So when we talk about plants again, Janelle, maybe you can offer me another slot. We talk about plants only because they are another exciting elements in landscape that I think everybody would love to know, would love to learn more about it. Okay, so Ran, Sirvin, I'll get back to you on that. Okay, right? Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, indeed. If there is a topic about plants, I would love to be a part of it. Plants is love.
Yeah. Plants is so exciting because they have their own behavior. They eat their own food. Yeah, they have their own behavior, and then some plants depends on imitates the owner. It's like you are breeding cats, right? So cats, they have their own behavior, and you love. And plants is just like cats or dogs. You can't imagine that to happen, but yes, if you love the plants, they will love you more. That's it. It's like when you love your cat, they will love you more. It's just as much as your dog. So that's talking about plants is very, very amazing, especially when you know their character, their behavior. You're gonna be in love with the plants. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, so we have come to the end of this seminar. There are no more further questions. Thank you once again, Dr. Atiah, and thank you everyone for joining us for today's online lecture. Thank you for the wonderful talk. Thank you for all the inspiration. Doctor?
Thank you, Janelle. Yeah, Janelle, we have one from Dr. Hazrina. She needs the email and slides. So maybe, I can do that to Dr. Rina in person, but maybe if anyone of you needs that, I will copy to Janelle, and maybe you can share with the participants that we have today.
Yeah,
okay?
Sure.
All right.
We'll get back to you on that.
Okay.
All right. So please keep in touch with our Masa's Instagram and Facebook for the next online lecture, as well as for any updates and information and the videos that will be uploaded for today that we had today.
All right.
So until then, have a nice day, and we will catch you next time.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Thank
Doctor.
you, everyone. See you again.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.